Well, hello again. I'm Anita Birtles, and today we're looking at Homes Not Houses, one of my rather favourite quilts. I've made this one several times, and it's, to be honest with you, it's this one I had to make up for the filming because I have given them all away. But that's how we do it. So, Homes Not Houses. We're going to make the houses. What's special about the houses is they're a very simple block, but you can embellish on them once you've finished your block. But I'm going to show you today how to make the block. And then later on we can look at how you would put some features in there through either the quilting or through applique to make them personal to you. Especially if you've moved around a few times, you can have as many houses as you like depending on which ones you've moved into. But let's start with a block. It's really simple block. You're starting with lots of single square pieces. The workshop notes will tell you what size you need. So we're going to make this block piece first, which has snowballed edges. I don't know if we've done snowballed edges before, but we're going to show you how to do those. So first, you need to draw your line down the middle of your block. You're going to, as a friend has shown me earlier on today, you're going to put a line down the middle for your sewing line. You then sew across, this is part of the roof, so you sew across this line here. Now, some of you will know that I cannot stand waste. So even though I've just sewn across that line, I'm going to mark again another line to sew on because I want that half square triangle like this. I can't get rid of anything. You know me, scraps. I have to keep these bits. I can't get rid of them. So I sew down that line, and then I sew down that line and I cut this piece off down the middle. You then end up with a piece like this. This is called a snowballed edge, snowballed corner, that sort of thing. And you just iron it back. You've then got the start of your roof, as we've seen here. Now, we're going to need to do exactly the same on the other corner with your background fabric. And again, you're going to sew along that line, draw another line, sew down that line, and then cut the bit off because we want to keep that little half square triangle because, as I say, I don't throw anything away. And then you're going to iron it back, and that is the part of your main part of your roof here. With this block, you then add on another piece of background. This is so that we're going to make the square, your block at the end, the right size. Because everything I tend to do is a 10-inch block. So it will be a 10-inch block once we've finished. Next, you need to make the other part of the roof. So we're going to start again snowballing the edge, same way, sewing across that line, and again do the other bit because I can't throw anything away. And you will end up with that snowballed edge. So it's a really simple technique and you're just repeating that technique. This actually is quite a good block for you to chain piece, but we can look at that another time. You can make these blocks all in one go. You then get your main piece for the rest of your house and you sew that to that. So we'll end up with this piece. Now, the next piece is a little fiddly because we've got these little tiny pieces and they're really difficult to get straight. So you're going to sew two tiny squares together and using a little bit of glue is a good idea. when you're doing these tiny little squares, rather than just popping a pin in, and you just sew those two together. One is going to be the chimney and one is the background. This then goes on to another background piece. So we've got the background there, we've got the chimney on, and we sew it to this piece that we've just sewn. This is a really simple block and it's so fantastic. So that's it, finished. Now, then we have to join them together. The tip about joining these together is, you may not have seen, but I've actually ironed these in different directions. So that we can make sure that they nest up to each other when we sew them. So I can sew those two together and they nest up nicely and I get a nice smooth edge sewing these two pieces together. So that's basically your house block, but we want to make it slightly bigger. So first you put a piece that's 2.5 inches on the bottom. So that will give you room to put a path or some trees or something outside of your house when you applique onto it. And then just two 2-inch strips down the side. That gives you a nice 10-inch square block. At this stage is where I trim it to 10 inches because then I can put it all together. The 10-inch block really goes well with the other blocks. On here we've got a forest block to give you the sort of woodland feel, some sea blocks which are to show that you're near the pond, and of course you've got sky and everything else. So depending on how many houses you make, you can put more houses in and less background. But a 10-inch block is so easy to put together and it gives you a really nice size quilt when you do a 4x5 10-inch block quilt. It's a really quick quilt to put together and really, really lovely to embellish further if you want to, or you can just keep it really simple. I just love this block, one of my favourites.